Explosions, both natural and accidental, have caused awe and terror for centuries. Although some may be accidents, most of them could have easily been avoided with proper precaution and security measures. The global history of the explosion is no different than that. Although these explosions have led to stricter safety measures and pressured corporations to change their maleficent practices, it came with the price of millions of people losing their lives. Number 10. Tianjin Explosion, China. In August 2015 at China's Tianjin port, a series of explosions shook China, let alone the world, as scientists claim it to be the second most powerful explosion, involving the detonation of about 800 tons of ammonium nitrate, based on crater size and lethality radius. The first two explosions occurred within 30 seconds of each other at the facility, which is located in the Binhai New area of Tianjin, China. The second explosion was far larger and involved the detonation of about 800 tons of ammonium nitrate. Fires caused by the initial explosions continued to burn uncontrolled throughout the weekend, resulting in 8 additional explosions on August 15th. The cause of the explosions was not immediately known, but an investigation concluded in February 2016 said that an overheated container of dry nitrocellulose was the cause of the initial explosion. The official casualty report was 173 deaths, 8 missing, and 798 non-fatal injuries. Of the 173 fatalities, 104 were firefighters. Number 9. Texas City Disaster. A fire on board the cargo ship SS Grand Camp docked at Texas City in 1947, detonating 2,300 tons of ammonium nitrate, a compound used in fertilizers and high explosives. The explosion blew 2 planes out of the sky and triggered a chain reaction that detonated nearby refineries, as well as a neighboring cargo ship, carrying another 1,000 tons of ammonium nitrate. The disaster killed roughly 600 people and injured roughly 3,500, and is generally considered the worst industrial accident in US history. Number 8. Halifax Explosion. In 1917, a French cargo ship fully loaded with explosives for World War I accidentally collided with a Belgian vessel in the harbour of Halifax, Canada. It exploded with more force than any man-made explosion before it, equivalent to roughly 3 kilotons of TNT. The blast sent a white plume billowing 20,000 feet, 6,100 meters above the city, and provoked a tsunami that washed up as high as 60 feet, 18 meters. For nearly 1.2 miles, 2 kilometers surrounding the blast center, there was total devastation, and roughly 2,000 people were killed and 9,000 injured. It remains the world's largest artificial accidental explosion. Number 7. Chernobyl. In 1986, a nuclear reactor exploded at Chernobyl in Ukraine, then part of the Soviet Union. It was the worst nuclear accident in history. The blast, which blew the 2,000-ton lid off the reactor, sent out 400 times more radioactive fallout than the Hiroshima bomb, contaminating more than 77,000 square miles, 200,000 square kilometers of Europe. Roughly 600,000 people were exposed to high doses of radiation, and more than 350,000 people had to be evacuated from contaminated areas. Number 6. Trinity Blast. The first atom bomb in history, dubbed the Gadget, was detonated at the Trinity site near Alamogordo, NM, in 1945, exploding with a force of roughly 20 kilotons of TNT. Scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer later said that while he watched the test, he thought of a line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, "I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." Nuclear weapons later ended World War II and ushered in decades of fear of nuclear annihilation. Scientists recently found that civilians in New Mexico may have been exposed to thousands of times the recommended level of public radiation. Number 5. Tunguska Explosion. The mysterious explosion near the Podkamanea Tunguska River in 1908 flattened some 500,000 acres, 2,000 square kilometers, of Siberian forest, an area nearly the size of Tokyo. Scientists think the blast was caused by a cosmic impact from an asteroid or comet, perhaps 65 feet, 20 meters, in diameter and 185,000 metric tons in mass, more than 7 times that of the Titanic. The resulting explosion could have been roughly as strong as 4 megatons of TNT, 250 times more powerful than the atom bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Number 4. Mount Tambora. In 1815, Mount Tambora in Indonesia exploded with the force of roughly 1,000 megatons of TNT, the largest volcanic eruption in recorded history. The blast hurled out roughly 140 billion tons of magma, and not only killed more than 71,000 people on the island of Sumbawa and nearby Lombok, but the ash it released created global climate anomalies. The following year, 1816, became known as the Year Without a Summer, with snow falling in June in Albany, NY, river ice seen in July in Pennsylvania, and hundreds of thousands of people dying of famine worldwide. Number 3. Comet Shoemaker-Levy 9. The comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 collided spectacularly with Jupiter in 1994. The giant planet's gravitational pull ripped the comet apart into fragments up to 1.8 miles, 3 kilometers wide, and they struck at 37 miles, 60 kilometers per second, resulting in 21 visible impacts. The largest collision created a fireball that rose about 1,800 miles, 3,000 kilometers, above the Jovian cloud tops, as well as a giant dark spot more than 7,460 miles, 12,000 kilometers, across, about the size of the Earth, and was estimated to have exploded with the force of 6,000 gigatons of TNT. Number 2. KT Extinction Impact Event. The age of dinosaurs ended in a cataclysm roughly 65 million years ago that killed off roughly half of all species on the planet. Although research suggests the planet was on the verge of an environmental crisis before the Cretaceous-Tertiary or KT extinction, the straw that broke the dinosaurs' back is widely thought to have been a cosmic impact with an asteroid or comet some 6 miles, 10 kilometers wide, exploding with the force of roughly 10,000 gigatons of TNT, or some 1,000 times the size of the world's nuclear arsenal. The collision would have blanketed the world with dust, ignited global firestorms, and triggered tsunamis thousands of feet high. A vast crater, roughly 110 miles, 180 kilometers, wide at Chicxulub on the coast of Mexico may be the blast site. Number 1. Shadow-casting supernova. Supernovas are exploding stars that often briefly outshine entire galaxies. The brightest recorded supernova in history was sighted in the constellation Lupus in the spring of 1006. The extraordinary golden explosion, now known as SN 1006, took place roughly 7,100 light-years away, in a fairly nearby part of the galaxy, and was bright enough to cast shadows and read by at night, remaining visible for months in the daytime.